In the northwest forests of Nova Scotia, the east coast of Canada, and the Great Lakes region of Canada dwells a cannibalistic creature from the folklore of the First Nations Algonquian tribes known as the Windigo. Characteristically known as a solitary giant, the Windigo can be either male or female and almost always has human origins. Its body is gaunt and emaciated, with a lipless, fanged mouth and eyes surrounded by pools of blood. The Windigo is associated with the owl in many Algonquian stories. Symbolically, owls are the bird of darkness and death. Windigos are the embodiment of gluttony, greed, and excess, feeding on rotten logs and fungi when human victims are scarce. When the Windigo happens upon a human meal, it grows in proportion to that meal, causing the creature to never be full. The Windigo possesses supernatural strength despite its slight body. It's said if two Windigos happen to meet in the woods, they have to battle each other until one is dead. There have been 70 cases of Windigoism spanning from the 17th century through the 1970s, passed down and recollected from First Nations informants. The only professionals who have seen and successfully treated Windigo cases are shamans, which unanimously liken the phenomenon to demon possession. There are said to be 3 origins to Windigo possession. One is by a person's own initiative, due to danger of death by starvation, and led to commit cannibalism in order to survive. Another is by means of vision quest, which every young Ojibwa and Cree youth undergoes before they attain adulthood. The elders expend considerable effort in teaching the characteristics of various spirits who may appear, so the youth can choose wisely the path to take in life. The Windigo is just one of many negative spirits who may present itself to entice the child. If a Windigo does come during the vision quest, it will offer the youth shortcuts through the hardships of life in exchange for possession of the child. Lastly, a person can succumb to Windigoism through sorcery. Algonquian shamans control not only the ways of healing, but also the forces of evil. Shamans hold the power to summon a Windigo to replace the soul of a person who has affronted him. Cannibalism isn't always the rule of undergoing a state of Windigoism. In 1907, Clan Chief Joseph Fiddler was tried in Hudson Bay's Company outpost in Canada's Northwest Territories along with his brother Jack for the murder of Joseph's daughter-in-law. She had arrived at their camp delirious and ill and was forced to be restrained at times. After 30 hours of suffering, she was strangled by Jack and Joseph. Her body was burned the following day by a third party at the camp, Norman Ray. Brother Jack committed suicide while detained before the trial. Joseph was found guilty of murder but strongly recommended mercy in light of the Windigo possessing his daughter-in-law. Among Joseph's clan, a killing of this type isn't considered a murder, for the Windigo has ceased to be classified as a human. Overcoming such a supernatural creature amongst the First Nations people is honored and respected as brave. In the 30s, a First Nations story was told of a middle-aged woman who believed a Windigo was entering her body and compelling her to eat her young grandchildren. To hinder the possession, she asked that someone kill her, but couldn't find anyone who would. She fashioned a rope to hang herself in front of her family, and her body and belongings were burned. Similarly, retold in the 60s was a case of an Ojibwa woman who felt she was becoming a Windigo. She was having distorted visions of the people around her looking like beavers, and she had the insatiable urge to eat them. She ordered her brother-in-law to bind her in a straitjacket, stun her with an axe, and then set fire to her and her tent while her husband and children looked on. She knew this was the only way to safeguard her family, and had the undisputed right to dispose of herself as she chose, putting an end to the Windigo transformation.